Adam Ashwill. We'll be hearing a lot more of his name in the years to come. This 17-year-old ultra cyclist has accomplished so much in a very short amount of time, and Oni has great things in store for his future. It was in 2015 that Adam was introduced to the famous Race Across America when he and his family set up time station number 30 in Fort Scott, Kansas, out of their home. Adam met Christoph Strasser and immediately fell into the RAAM addiction. Since then, Adam has lost over 50 pounds and in just a couple short years has gone from riding over 200 miles in his first 24-hour time trial at just 9.9 miles per hour to racing a 100-mile century recently with an average speed of 21.2 miles per hour. Amazing. Adam has also competed in the Texas time trial 6-hour event, the Sebring 12-hour time trial, and the 60 VRAAM race this year. Adam's story is nothing short of inspirational. I'm your host, Justin Tu. Let's roll. Hey, Ultra family, Justin Tu here, your host of the Ultra Cycling Show. Thanks for tuning in for today's unique and special episode with our guest, 17-year-old Adam Ashwill. In 2015, Adam and his family set up time station number 30 in Fort Scott, Kansas, out of their home for the Race Across America. He then met Christoph Strasser and immediately fell into the RAAM addiction. And now he himself has an incredible journey as a cyclist himself, as he's been a spectator, but now he's actually a pretty fast 17-year-old, and I'm sure he has high ambitions. So looking forward to talking with him and learning all about his journey. Thanks, Adam, for joining me on the show today. Really glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Can't believe you're only 17 years old, but you're already addicted to the Race Across America. I can only imagine what's in store for your future. I guess it goes without saying that the Race Across America is somewhere on your radar, right?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I have a few goals in mind. I would like to be able to do 500 miles in 24 hours, which
Nice.
is a goal that's going to be a lot easier than RAM, but they all have their own certain ways of being very difficult. But I would like to do RAM on like a 4-person or 8-person team. I don't know about solo. I've seen a lot, and I don't know if it's really on the big target of doing that. But one of my biggest goals is just to do 500 miles in 24 hours. I'd also like to win an ultra event someday. I don't know if that's will happen someday, but
Oh yeah.
I have big aspirations for those few goals.
Yeah, I love it. No, I believe in you, Adam. Keep going. You're still nice and young and in the prime to be fast, and I look forward to following your journey. Now, of course, you have ridden quite a number of events through just the last several years as you've become a bicyclist yourself. And just actually this past weekend, you rode a century ride. Just tell me a bit about that before we get into our sprint round of questions.
Yeah, so that was the annual Gorilla Century. It was their 17th year of doing it. I did it last year as an attempt to beat my fastest century, which my fastest century up to that time was somewhere around the 9-hour range.
Hmm.
And last year I went out and did a 5-hour and 9-minute century. And I loved this event. And so I decided I was going to come back this year and have a goal, since I've gotten so much faster in the last year, of trying to do it in under 4 hours. And I went and was going to sign up for the event, but COVID happened, so they had to postpone the ride from Labor Day weekend until October 24th, which I kind of got a little edgy about that. I
Hmm.
knew it was gonna be later in the year, and you're going to have to be battling with a lot more conditions: rain, wind, cold, that sort of thing. And I went ahead and I decided, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and beat 5 hours. And so I went and trained and trained and trained. And I got to the event on Saturday morning, and it was in the low 30s. And my Wahoo said that it was 33 degrees with a real feel of 26. And
Oh,
I started, and my group rode the first 38 miles at about a 23-mile-an-hour average. And it was very cold, but other than that, it really wasn't a huge thing. But nobody could stay warm, needless to say. Um,
mm,
but we kept on with the event. I had a lot of fun, and I managed a 21.2 mile per hour average with my group.
nice.
We were the lead group throughout the whole event. It was absolutely a blast, and I beat my previous time by 22 minutes.
That's awesome. Great job, Adam. 21.2 miles
Thank
per
you.
hour. That is a nice, fast average speed. So well done.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot to be
Thank
proud
you.
of. And I think that just last year and even the year before, you were riding much slower than that, and you've improved
Yeah.
dramatically. And if you were able to do that so quickly, I just wonder, as you get more experience, as you participate in more events, what kind of ultra cyclist you can become. Really exciting. You are the first and youngest guest on the show at your age. And so you could add that to your list of achievements. Now, to let
Will
folks
do.
know, you did also participate in the Sebring 12-hour event. And so folks will be familiar with that. Also, this year, you did participate in the 60 VRAAM race, which was one of the virtual options that the Race Across America organization offered. You've also participated in the Texas Time Trials 6-hour. And then in 2021, just in a couple months, actually in January, you plan to participate in the Pace Bend 12-hour. So it seems like you are looking to target those faster, shorter distances, 100, 200 miles, which is great. It's something that I'm pretty passionate about. And when I started as an ultra cyclist, a few years older than you, 20 years old, I felt really young at that point. And I was doing a lot of double centuries, 200-mile races. Now you are only 17 years old, and it's exciting that you got in the ultra cycling bug. It's bit you and big time. Could only imagine as a spectator at a time station, seeing about halfway across the country all of those ultra racers, including Christoph Strasser and many others who I'm sure have given you some inspiration. I'm sure
Yes.
it's given you a good perspective into ultra cycling. And so, of course, you know what you're signing up for and you know what you're working towards, and that's awesome. And so it'll be exciting to follow your journey, and we'll discuss it more. But let's first get into a fun, quick sprint round of questions. Just a short series of questions to get to know you in a nutshell.
All right.
You could answer just in a few sentences. And then after that, I'd love to get into more of your story, your history with the Race Across America, and then just everything else that you have planned as a cyclist yourself. So first
All right.
question,
Awesome.
Adam, how long have you been a bicyclist? And then how long have you been an ultra cyclist?
So I've been a bicyclist for 5 years, and I just started ultra probably a year and a half ago.
Wow. Awesome. A year and a half ago, and you've already broken that incredible mark there for a 21.2 mile per hour century. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can imagine you're training really hard. How many
Yes.
bicycles do you own, Adam?
I saw that question coming. I have 6 bikes.
Holy cow, 6
Yeah.
bicycles? Are your parents
Yes.
buying all those for you?
No, I'm paying for all of them. I've had a
Wow,
few. One of them was given to me. I have a time trial bike. I have a gravel bike. I have 2 road bikes. I have a mountain bike. Um, I'm
nice.
trying to think of anything else, but yeah, 6 bikes.
All right, so you've definitely been bitten and you very much are a cyclist. And that's impressive. 6 bicycles at 17 years of age. Well, it sounds like you have enough gear to do the Race Across America, or at the very least, I guess, the
Yes.
500-mile, 24-hour time trial. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your favorite bicycle of the 6?
Ooh, I don't know. Probably my Lightspeed road bike. I got that from my buddy Mike Phillips. It's a long story how I came about it, but I
Hmm.
did my fastest double century on that bike.
Hmm.
Before this last week, I did my fastest century on it.
Hmm.
Um, I did Sebring on that bike. I climbed the glass elevator on that bike. I rode out in Borrego on that bike, and it's been
Nice.
through a lot. And I rode the 60 on that bike too. Well, the virtual 60. So yeah, we've
Okay.
had a lot of fun times together, needless to say.
That's awesome, Adam. And we share that in common. I do also have a Lightspeed bicycle, carbon fiber. Of course, they're quite well known for their titanium bicycles, and they
Yeah.
still do that a lot. But very nice bike, so I can appreciate that. Now, I did want to show folks. This was a photo just from your Century ride this last weekend. Very nice, looking fast and
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah. Very cold.
And we'll go over a bunch of other photos that you sent. Very nice collection that you have there. Thanks for sharing that with us. Okay, Adam, what bicycle computer do you use? Do you use a Garmin or a Wahoo or another brand?
I use a Wahoo Element Bolt.
Nice. All right. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, quite a
Yeah.
few people, I'd say half so far on the show. Half the folks using Wahoos and half
Yeah.
still using Garmin's. I myself still own both brands, but mostly use the Wahoo
Yeah.
now. Just quickly,
Yeah.
what
Me
do you
too.
like about the Wahoo?
Oh, I don't. It has an amazing battery life on it. I really like that. It's not that big. It's very light. I really like that factor too.
Hmm.
And it's a lot more dependable to me than Garmin. I've had a few things happen on my last few Garmin devices. And I switched to a Wahoo. I took a just a little leap of faith on it,
Hmm.
and I tried it out, and I was like, wow, this thing is just amazing.
Yeah.
It has everything works on it. It's just perfect. I don't know what it is about it, but I love it.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing from other guests on the show, and in my own experience, I must agree. It's pretty incredible. Even at the price point that the Wahoo sell for, you get a big bang for your buck on those, actually. So glad
Yeah,
you're
you do.
happy with that. Now,
Yes.
when it comes to training or even racing, Adam, do you worry about things like power or heart rate?
I know I should, but I really don't. I
Yeah.
train to. This is gonna sound so amateur, but I train to average speed a lot.
Uh-huh.
Um, I I go out and I do typically my ride is 20 to 25 miles, and I'll average somewhere between 19 and a half and 22 miles an hour, somewhere in that range, all of
Hmm.
my rides. And then that's my days where I go out and I just ride 5 loops around my little 5 mile loop that I do. And then I have a place here in Gun Park, which I do hill training at.
Hmm.
And, I'll go out there and do, 3, 4, 5,000 feet of climbing and just,
Hmm.
Somewhere between 30 and 50 miles.
Oh,
So,
wow.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, for that,
surprised you're able to do so much climbing there. Of course, Kansas is stereotypically known for being very flat and windy
yeah,
and I guess hot and humid and many other things.
yes, yeah, yeah.
That's great.
This is at a park, so.
Right, right, right. So, I mean, how long is the climb that you do? Do you have to do intervals on it?
Yeah, so it's a round park. It's about a 1.5 mile loop. And I just go around it, 30 times, 40 times.
Wow,
And
nice.
it starts with a real sharp descent and then a really steep climb. And it's like a roller coaster all the way around it. And I love it.
Yeah, sounds fun. I'll have to visit someday when we're back out in Kansas. Sounds like a perfect candidate maybe for an Everesting attempt. I wonder how many times you'd have to ride that to get
That's what I was
29,000
thinking.
feet.
It's around 290 times.
Oh, wow, you've done the calculations. Jeez. Just to keep track of that will be
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
a task in itself. And I
yeah,
would I would say nothing amateur about not training with power or heart rate. I know many ultracyclists who don't. Of course, those who are
right.
fast like you tend to get there at some point, but I think there is a lot to learn from feeling your body. Now, maybe if you were
Yeah,
structuring your training, maybe average speed isn't the best metric, but in terms of
right.
getting to know your body and especially building up to, say, the 500-mile mark or the multi-day events, I think it is a great way to learn it. I would admit that probably my first 30 double centuries or even more, I was also just training with average speed. And I
Yeah,
wasn't necessarily training to be fast, but I was really just trying to build up my endurance, get used to riding, not just the training, the physical aspects, but even nutrition and other things like that.
yes,
So don't
yes.
feel bad, Adam. You're 17 years old. You already rode a century, 21.2 miles per hour. I think you have a lot to be proud of. Don't sell yourself too short there. Okay, so we'll have to have you back on the show one day when you do your first functional threshold power test, FTP, or have you done one before?
Well, I have an approximate FTP
Okay.
that I did on a trainer, and it's somewhere around, I'm thinking somewhere around 240 to 250 watts, but I'm
Okay.
only 138 pounds. So, I mean, that's quite a few watts per kilo
Right.
to hold that. But that was held back in June. So I'm not sure where I'm at since.
That's awesome, Adam. I could just imagine it would be cool to get that data from you one day. You are an up and coming ultra cyclist, I believe it, and you just keep going, and then we'll see you out on all the races winning. Now,
I
Adam, when
hope
you're
so.
riding or when you're racing, what's your favorite ride snack? What do you like eating on the bike?
Oh, ooh, uh, something very sweet, very
Huh.
sugary, and fruity. I like fruity flavored things.
Oh,
So
okay.
whether it's like fruit snacks or something like that, I love it all. It's something that I crave. It's so good.
Hmm. Yeah. Sounds nice. I would say that's unique to the show. Most ultra cyclists,
Yeah.
of course, if they're doing those really long rides like you would like to do, the say the 500 miles, they're doing a lot of the liquid nutrition, things like that, a lot of powders. Now, when it comes to
Yeah.
hydration, what do you like drinking then?
I usually do primarily water. I do goo octane, which at Texas time trials that got me in trouble a little bit, but
Hmm.
because I mixed my bottles wrong. Um,
Hmm.
and then I'll do gels and stuff like that. But
Right.
honestly, I usually stick to a lot of water, and then after my rides, I'll make up a little hydration mix and
Hmm.
drink that a little after the ride. So yeah, I tried when I was at Sebring. I did insure, and
Yeah.
that got me in trouble.
Ah,
I that mixed with goo octane and water, um, and a Cliff Bar every once in a while.
yeah.
I think I vomited probably 10 times, maybe
Holy
in
cow.
that 12
Yeah.
hours. But I mean, I managed 19, a little over 19 miles an hour because I was just like, I'm not going to stop for anything. I stayed on the bike
Nice.
as much as I could.
That's Adam. Adam, sounds like you very much have that ultra endurance mindset already. So that's really good. Okay, Adam, after a nice long hard ride like this last weekend century, or when you've done your Sebring 12-hour, what's your favorite post-ride meal? What do you just love or crave to eat after a hard effort?
It could really be anything. But I really like pizza. Pizza is one of my like favorite foods. I love eating it. And then pretty much anything with sugar, like donuts. I really like donuts. I really like cake. And I usually like this weekend, I came home from my century ride. I drove home. It was 26 miles away. And I came home and I ate two pieces of pizza, three pieces of cheesecake, and then two bowls of chili. And then I can't remember. I ate everything in sight. I was just so hungry. And I mean, I'll eat about anything pretty much after a ride.
That's awesome, Adam. Yeah, you're in good company. Pizza has been one of the top picks for guests on the show. Cheesecake is a first, but I'm sure people are just hiding their guilty pleasures. I love cheesecake as well. Now, on your pizza, what are your favorite toppings?
Oh, Supreme. Definitely Supreme. I really like Supreme pizza. All the vegetables and stuff,
Yeah,
perfect.
that's awesome. Do you prefer climbs, descents, rollers, or flats?
Ooh, I I really like climbing. It's different for somebody from Kansas, but I do like climbing. I like, the constant going uphill and monotonous and looking up it and
Huh,
like knowing that once you get to the top, like this is going to be beautiful at the top
right,
and knowing that you just accomplished that. Like the flats, they get very boring very fast, but you can ride
yeah,
fast on them, but you're
right.
not going anywhere. Um, and then descents, I get a little sketched out on sometimes.
Hmm.
Rollers, they're fine to me. I'll do them, but yeah, I think I really prefer the climbs over a lot of things.
Ah, cool. And I'd imagine you're probably built to climb as well from some of the photos I've seen. Okay, so you said you get a little sketched out going downhill, but I'm curious, do you know what your max speed down a hill has been?
Ooh, probably at Texas time trials. I was on my time trial bike and I had a really deep front wheel on my bike. It was like a 96 millimeter deep front wheel, and then I had a disc on the back, and I just full send down one of these hills. It was the day before the race,
Hmm.
and I think my computer came somewhere around the 50-mile-an-hour range.
Nice.
Um, I mean that's not fast compared to a lot of people, but I've never descended a mountain before, so
Hmm.
maybe that's one thing. But that is probably the fastest I think I've ever gone um,
Yeah,
down a hill, and I was just
that's pretty
knees up
fast.
against the frame. Yeah.
Yeah, once you get to the 40s, it starts getting a little sketch. When you get hit 45 and upwards, it gets even crazier. Now, some people on the show, some of whom you've met before, including Marco Ballo, they've hit about 65. But we actually
Yeah,
had
that's
someone
fast.
recently that did 75.
Wow.
Very
Wow.
exceptional. Yeah, fast enough to go on the freeway.
Yeah, who did
Yeah.
that?
All right, Adam, when do you enjoy riding the most out there in Kansas? During the fall, the winter, spring, or summertime?
Oh, I really like the fall time. It's pretty crisp and cool and stuff like that. But I also really like the springtime. So it's somewhere in between the spring and the fall. The summer is just downright miserable, but it's like maple syrup out here, and the winter is just oh, I'm not a fan of the winter.
Hmm.
It's horrible. Like right now, there's snow on the ground, little bits of snow on the ground, and it's just like I'm not going to go out and ride. I'm going to sit on the trainer tonight. So,
Jeez. So what altitude is Fort Scott where you live?
oh, I live on the top of a hill, and I think I'm a little over 860 feet.
Hmm. Let's
Yeah,
do a quick Google search here. Yeah, 846. I see that
yeah,
elevation.
somewhere around that range, somewhere
Huh.
around there.
Interesting. And it gets so cold that you even get snow there. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I guess during the winter time, you're not really riding out much, indoor training mostly?
A lot of well, last winter I kind of sucked it up and went out and rode in it.
Hmm.
Um, but that's really hard to ride on a bike when it's hard on your bike to ride in the cold weather when there's a lot of brine on the road and salt.
Right.
It'll ruin your frames and your wheels at cassette. And so I decide, this year I think I'm just going to sit on the trainer a lot of these days,
Hmm.
just for the sake of my bikes, because I don't want to ruin my bikes this year. So,
Well, I'm glad you're a good caretaker for those six bicycles, Adam. I'm sure they appreciate it and they'll take you very long distances. Well done.
I hope so.
Okay, so what time of day do you prefer riding? During the morning, the afternoon, or the evening?
I like riding at night actually. So after 8:30 at night, I really, really like riding at that time because it's dark and there's not a whole lot of cars outside.
Hmm.
It's I don't know if this is just psychological or what, but you don't really seem to feel the wind as much at night. And I don't know what is something just clicks. I really love riding at night, but other than that, probably the early afternoon. I like riding in the early afternoon too. But
Hmm.
yeah, I'm a fan of riding at night. As long as it's not too cold, I love riding at night.
Yeah, that always makes for a nice adventure. Okay, what do you
Yeah.
think, Adam? Does ultra cycling require more physical or mental training?
I think it requires equally of both. I think
Hmm.
because going out and saying I'm going to go out and ride 1,000 miles in this race. Uh, I mean, sure, it's all fun and games until you get there and you actually do it, and you're just like, this really sucks. So I mean, it's a lot of physical, um, because if you just physically can't do it, then you just can't do it. Uh, but a lot of it's psychological because the psychological aspect can ruin you. You can recover in a physical aspect, but
Hmm.
psychologically, it could take some time to really build yourself and be strong enough to be able to handle that long of just sitting on a bicycle.
Right.
So I think getting used to boredom,
Hmm.
and not only that, but being able to tell yourself to keep going and that the human body has no limits.
Hmm.
Um, it requires a strong psychological aspect, but I think it's equally in both
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
ultra cycling.
Yeah, great answer. Very common answer amongst the guests. And I would say, I do agree. If you can't physically do it, of course, then you can't. So that's well said. And I like when you said, for the mental component, it really is about building up. It does take time. It's just sheer experience, really. when you push yourself to your current limits and you realize you can go beyond them, then you can progress to things like the Race Across America. Now, I do want to turn our attention to some more photos that you sent, but first I want to point people out to your Facebook page. They could definitely follow along with you. And there's this awesome photo that you have as your cover photo. There's you. And I think many of the guests and many of the viewers would be familiar with this photo because it looks like Christmas Circle there in Borrego Springs. And of course,
Yep.
here is Marco Ballo himself, one of the premier ultra cyclists, Slovenian ultra racer. Tell me about this photo, Adam.
Yeah, so that was taken the day before the 612 24-hour World Time Trial Championships last year. I was out there crewing for two of my great friends, Andy Christensen and Mike Phillips. And Mike messaged me months before the ride, and he was just like, "Hey, Marco's hosting this ride before the race." And he's like, "You want me to ship one of my bikes out there so you can ride it?" I was like, "Sure." So we went out there, and we had just driven down to Borrego Springs, and there were so many people out there. It was just an incredible community out there, and there were so many just legends in this community out there. And we went in and we rode, and it felt awesome, being able to ride with these people, and I felt so privileged to be able to do it. So yeah, that was definitely the experience of a lifetime. Probably it'll be a ride that I'll never forget.
That's so cool, Adam. Yeah, it's unique that someone your age, now I can relate. I was 20 when I started, you're 17, so I can only imagine how much more special it is and just crazy these adventures are for you. It's awesome that you're able to do them at such a young age. Again, I can relate because I started pretty young myself, and it's pretty cool what you can do as an ultra cyclist, and then also just the fun adventures you get yourself and then even with your family. So I am curious, you've done quite a few events already in your short amount of time as a cyclist. Which has been your favorite event?
Ooh, probably Sebring this year. That was my first time ever really riding that fast for that long. My fastest double century to that point. I had done a 24-hour race. Um, Gosh, I think it was probably 9 months beforehand, and I was out of shape. I'll just admit that I was very fat. I had a lot of body fat, and I didn't train that much. And I did 202 miles in 20 hours and 30 minutes. And I about a month after, 2 months afterwards, I decided, I need to go on a diet and I need to start losing weight before my next couple of events. I don't know what I'm going to do and how far I'm going to go with this kind of condition. My body being in this condition, there's no way I'm going to be able to do anything, experimental or anything big. So I started losing weight and I dropped weight very fast. And Sebring was really my first race that I was able to, you know, bring my inner demons out and just go and just unleash the beast and just go as hard as I could. And my goal was to break the course record with 187 miles in 12 hours. And I set out there, I was like, I'm going to try after this record. And I went, and that morning we got to the start. It was a little cold, not as cold as this last weekend, but it was pretty cold. And we rode, and I went as hard as I could, and I just kept consistent all day and had a lot of fun. I was laughing and smiling my whole time, and I finished the ride, and I'd done 225 miles, and I'd gotten second to another kid who was 18. So he at the time was 2 years older than me, and he beat me by 3 miles. So that was, it was the experience of a lifetime. Even getting second, sure that sucks, but other than that, it was just the journey. It was just an amazing ride, and I loved every second of it.
That's cool. Great story and a great result, second place, and how many miles you did, especially that whole journey to get to that point. Now, I do want to share with folks a photo that you sent here at the time station 30. Folks will recognize some of these faces here. And so how old were you here? Was this 2015?
That was 2017.
Oh,
Um, and that was, I think, on a Sunday afternoon. It was the second day of which riders were coming through.
oh, cool.
And yeah, that was Red Media One. They stopped and I got a picture with them. That was before I started taking cycling seriously, obviously, as
Yeah.
my body condition.
Yeah, so
But
2017. So I mean that wasn't too long ago. Now here's another
no,
photo where you were still bigger built there.
yeah, that was my first race. That was,
Ah,
yeah, I don't know what made me do this, but I decided to do a 24-hour race as my first race because I saw everybody else and it sounded
yeah.
easy, and
Huh.
it was the farthest thing from easy. And yeah, I was in bad shape and barely finished that guy. But yeah, it wasn't that fun, but it all worked out.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
Yeah, and you've grown a lot, but it's cool that you even got started at such a young age, are taking it seriously even now. And I wouldn't say you spend a lot of time not taking it seriously. So that's even more amazing that you were able to make those necessary adjustments and take it so seriously. And of course, in such a short amount of time, you've improved dramatically. And like you said, you've also lost a lot of weight, which I'm sure you just feel great yourself. I'd like to know and just start from the beginning of your journey. So, from the first time that you saw the Race Across America passing through your town there, let's kind of walk through that so that way people can get appreciation for how you got interested in ultra cycling, and meeting Christoph Strasser in 2015 as well and others, and then leading ourselves back to this past weekend where you did an excellent result, 21.2 miles per hour. So tell me about, let's see, 2014, you missed Christoph that year.
Yeah.
What had happened there? So you're there, Fort Scott, Kansas. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, so we had just gone to go get groceries and we came back and that was when they had an app tracking the race called Tractalis.
Mm,
Um, and it was read in a different time zone. So we were like, okay, so Strasser will be coming in about 2 hours later than he actually came in. So he actually came in 2 hours earlier than we predicted, or it was
mm,
somewhere around that range. And I guess at that point nobody had really expected and thought about how long it would take him to ride from Yates Center to Fort Scott, which is only 60 miles.
mm,
And I think he averaged like 18.6 miles an hour. So that's less than 3 hours, or no, it's a little over 3 hours.
mm.
And we went and we came back, and my mom was just outside and saw him go by, and that was it. But the next day, we saw a few other riders come in. A guy named Nico Valsisio, which he is just an incredible athlete. He does hiking, he does cycling, he does running. He is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. It's just an insane athlete. And he stopped and saw all of us kids, and there were, gosh, I don't know, probably 10, 15 kids out there, and we were all cheering him on. And him and his crew were there, and it was an amazing experience. And then I think that same day we met Anders Testgaard, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
saw them. And one of his crew guys, his name is Christian. He signed all of our bikes, so that
Cool.
began another thing of signing our bikes. And yeah, that was just an incredible journey, and it just blew up from there, and we met so many people, and we I just began to appreciate the race a whole lot more from
Mm.
that point. It's just I was just hooked. It was just I don't know what took me. It just grabbed my attention so much, and I was like, wow, this is just incredible. I love this.
Yeah.
So the next year we started doing it, and um, me and all my friends were all like super impressed with these ultra people and what they were doing, and it just it just amazed us and inspired us. And we're all like going out and doing these little group rides, and we're like mimicking the RAAM racers, like acting like we have aero bars on our BMX bikes, and we were just going out and riding and having a fun time. We were so excited for RAAM the next year, and we talked about it at school all the time, and it just spread, and it just grew from there, and it got me to where I am now. My friends moved away since then, and nobody really goes out and rides with me anymore. since we went from 8 miles to my now usual ride, like ride at about 25 miles, and nobody really wants to ride with me anymore. But
That's
you know,
cool.
it's just been a journey, you know.
Yeah.
So and after 2015, I was just addicted. I'm like, this is my life now.
That's a pretty cool story. Thanks for sharing that with us, Adam. A very
Thank you.
unique way to get started. And I guess perhaps one of the best ways to get started because you're really starting with this perspective and this paradigm of the most elite race you could do, meeting some of the elite ultra endurance cyclists from all around the world. So that's a really awesome way to get started with something. And even like you said, you did your first ride. It was a 24-hour event. And I
Yep.
would say, you know, you may look back and think, or at that time, or some other people might think, geez, that was kind of silly to start with such a high ambition. But honestly, I always think if you start at that point, it can only be downhill from there, right? And
Yeah,
and even
yeah,
if you had such a difficult time and you were regretting it during the ride, you make it to the end, you made it to the end, you lived, you survived, and all of a sudden
yeah,
in your mind you start realizing, geez, if I could do it with hardly any fitness, hardly any training, overweight, and all these things, imagine if I could shave 5 pounds here, shave 10 pounds there, if I could train a little extra, if I could eat a little better, dial in my nutrition. All of a sudden you start realizing, okay, you know, this next goal, it's possible in these ways. And I think that's the beauty of ultra cycling, that, you know, as you progress in your distances and your times of all your events, that it's not that you're necessarily just a crazy exceptional person, although you are and many athletes are, but it's really just a matter of logic. Like you do one step and then you can see how you could take the next step and then next. And heck, before you know it, you'll be at the starting line of the race across America, Adam.
yeah. Someday,
Yeah.
soon.
So you were riding with your friends. You were just doing 7 or 8 miles every day, really just having
Yeah,
fun. But that's the best way to get started, right? You got to enjoy what you're doing, especially if you're going to be riding that many miles, putting your body through that much pain and asking so much of your body and your mind. But then in
yeah,
2018, you really started taking things seriously. You did your first 100 K ride, 62 miles, right? And
yes, yes,
then it was that same year that you actually rode with Christoph Strasser into your town, right?
yes. I did. Yes,
Yeah, tell us
yeah,
about that. That's exceptional. I don't know how many people could say they've ridden with Christoph before.
yeah. So, um, it started with a few months before. I had a goal of riding in with every rider of the race. I was like, you know, what, I'm gonna ride with these racers because at the time I thought there's no way I'm ever gonna be able to race against these people. I'm never going to be in shape enough to race with these people. Why don't I just ride with them for like 2 miles?
Yeah.
And I rode with I saw Strasser's crew come into town and I asked him about it. I was like, hey, can I do this? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So he was expecting me to ride with him and we rode
Ah.
together and I actually I partially dropped him on one of the hills coming into town and he was like, you're too fast, and I was just like, oh, okay. So I just, you know, waited and pedal off a little bit, but it was incredible just how fast he was going after he'd been on his bike for almost 5 days already, and it
Mm.
just amazed me, and just I was it was just incredible. But I rode with a few other riders, and then they put in a rule uh, midway through the race that you couldn't ride with any riders of the race.
Hmm.
I kind of just threw that out the window. But you know, I'm really glad that I got that experience, and maybe next year I'll even race with Strasser. So
Yeah, that's it. Very exciting. Well, I'm glad
yeah,
you were able to do that. A very unique experience. Again, not sure how many people can say they've done similar, and especially dropping Strasser. Wow, that's a
yeah,
highlight.
that's probably the only time it'll ever happen.
Yeah, I'm sure he must have had so much fun with it, and I bet it gave him some fun motivation through that stretch into Fort Scott, Kansas. So thanks for sharing that story. So then, of course, you started taking things more and more seriously. In 2019, just last year, you did get your first bike and you were about 190 pounds, but then you rode your 24-hour race. And like you said, it was a grueling day, 20 hours, 30 minutes on the saddle, 9.9 miles per hour, but 202
Yeah.
miles. That's amazing. Even being out of
Yeah.
shape, overweight, I mean, you didn't give up. So I don't think that it's a mistake that you are an ultra cyclist, even at your age, because as I said earlier, it very much sounds like you already have the ultra endurance mindset. And so perhaps you were just born with that kind of gift as well. Because it does take an exceptional person, not just through experience and training, but really just the inner grit to be able to stick with it. And I mean, a 24-hour race, and let's see, at that point, that was 2019, was it?
Yeah. Yes.
So you were 16 years old. You did
Actually,
it.
I was still 15 at that point.
You were 15. So, okay.
Yes.
You were 15 years old. You signed up and you actually completed a 24-hour event. That's
Yes.
incredible. And so I think there's no excuses for the rest of us, but well done. And,
Thank
just
you.
a couple episodes ago, we had somebody who broke the 24-hour outdoor road record, which actually
Yes.
Christoph Strasser did hold before, and it stood since 2015. So since the first time that you actually saw him, and
Yeah.
the same story with this gentleman, Stanko Verstosek, another
Yep.
Slovenian rider. He also has that same kind of gift that many ultra cyclists do have, that mental strength and fortitude and that ability to keep pushing even when it gets tough and even when our bodies tell us that we can't keep going. And so I'm very excited genuinely to watch your journey, because you can only get stronger from here, and you have the mindset. And so perhaps it's just a matter of dialing in the physical aspects. As you said, it's half mindset, half physical. As you continue to get better and better there, and you've already grown in leaps and bounds, and then once you get your nutrition also dialed in, I think you'll be a
Yeah.
force to be reckoned with, and definitely look forward to seeing you on the podium there with Christoph one day.
Someday.
Yeah. And then, so of course, let's see, last year, 2019, it was July that you started losing weight, really starting to take your training seriously, eating less. You got to
Yes.
139 pounds at the 6, 12, 24-hour. That was in Borrego Springs last year, the World Time Trial Championships. And then, of course, we did show the photo with you and Marco and other riders there. And I'd love to pull up those photos again here. And so that's you there,
Yeah.
139 pounds. Wow. So that
Yeah.
was about over 50 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so
Yes.
cool. And so, of course, at that time, while you were out in Borrego, you were crewing for someone. And then you
Yes.
also had the opportunity to climb the Montezuma grade glass elevator. How was that experience for you? That must have been fun. Usually in the race across America, you're going down, you were going up. How did it
Yeah.
feel?
It was really, after being up for, almost 24 hours the day before, and then going to bed that night and then getting up, a little bit earlier and going up the mountain. I started it and I was like, wow, I can do this. And I went up and around the curves, and I was having a lot of fun until,
Yeah.
about 9 miles into it. And then I started really feeling it. And I just, I never climbed anything like that before. And finally I got to the top. I was like, wow, that was really amazing. So I didn't ride down. My mom told me that I was not allowed to ride down. I could ride up,
Mm,
but I couldn't ride down. But
yeah.
I rode to the top and drove down. But that was absolutely incredible. I mean, it hurt a little bit, but other than that, it was great. We went back to the house and then I flew home that day, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. It's cool that you were able to get such an experience. Very
Yeah.
exceptional, climbing from the low desert floor up there. And it can get quite windy. It could also get hot, and a lot of fun. Going down would be a blast, but geez, I'm sure you've seen in the Race Across America, the guys just bombing down there. I'm sure you could hit 65 miles per hour going down there pretty easily if you're comfortable. But there are quite a few turns, so you have to be comfortable. And I will admit, I'm also a bit on the conservative side when it comes to descending, especially when there's a
Yeah.
crosswind.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Okay, so now bringing us back to 2020 now, this year. So last year, it was kind of laying a foundation. You lost a bunch of weight. You started really training seriously. You did some nice big events. You got a lot of experience. You got to see more racers like Marco and others. In February of this year, you did the Sebring 12-hour event. You beat the course record, as you were explaining, and that was a fantastic result, 19.1 miles per hour. And there was somebody that beat you by 3 miles. So I'm sure
Yeah.
that's good motivation for next year, I suppose. Do you plan to be back there?
So with the uncertainty of Sebring happening, they were talking about doing it in late February. But I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to get time from school because I'm doing 2 years of school at once right now,
Hmm.
and still having a job at the same time. And I plan to do pace bend to take over Sebring's spot. My goal was to do 250 at Sebring this year, which was very possible this
Hmm.
coming year. But I'm decided I'm going to go ahead and do pace bend instead, and just explore all the races, and we'll see if I do have the time off and everything works out. Then maybe I will do Sebring too. So I don't know. If I go to Sebring, I'm going to go out there and definitely work a lot harder than last year. I mean, not I last year, but a lot has changed. It's been 8 months since Sebring, so
All right.
we'll see about beating a course record next year.
Yeah, that's cool. I hope everything works out, but I'm sure whatever you do in 2021, there'll be some really great results. I hope you have a lot of fun with that. And yeah, it's just exceptional what you've done in such a short amount of time again. And I do look forward to following that journey. And I'm sure many others will. So I do encourage people to follow you on Facebook and to follow that journey. I think it is an exceptional one, from your beginnings and how you got started, how you got exposed to ultra cycling. It obviously the toughest ultra cycling event in the world, the Race Across America. And so I think there can only be good stories to tell through time and many more adventures to come. Now, kind of as we close out on this segment, I am curious just on a few kind of day-to-day things related to your training and things like that. What does that look like for you? I mean, from one week to another, what are you doing for your training?
Yeah, so I usually do about 5 days a week of cycling, and that can consist of anywhere between 5 and 10 rides. Every ride over 20 miles apiece. And so I'm usually averaging somewhere between 150 to 200 miles a week, depending on the week, whether I have to taper for a race or anything like that. Uh, but some days I'll decide I'm going to go out and ride flats today. And then the next day I'll be like, okay, I'm going to go do climbing today. A lot of it depends on the weather. If the wind's out of the north, it's a good day to go out and do climbing.
Mm.
If the wind is out of the south and it's pretty warm, it's a good day to go out and do flats. If the temperature is horrible, it's a good day. Might as well go mountain biking. So I mean, it changes week by week. I don't think I've really had any two consistent weeks in a row. But
Mm.
earlier this year, I was doing a lot of 200-mile plus weeks. But after a while, working, school, and cycling all that at the same time, I began getting very tired and overtraining a lot.
Mm.
And I just I started cutting back the mileage a little bit more and just getting more out of my rides,
Mm.
and doing less riding but getting more out of my rides, which has actually gotten me faster, consequently. So I'm not riding to lose weight now, I'm riding to get stronger. So
Right.
um,
That's
that's
cool.
how my training is now.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It sounds like you've figured out a lot. Now I'm curious, do you have a coach or how have you learned all of this? Just on your own?
Yeah, so I don't have a coach. I've just been getting loads of guidance from friends and family, and just doing a lot of it on my own. Just a lot of trial and error, finding out what works for me because no two people are the same.
Mm.
Um, so but a lot of it does come from friends and family. That's where a large majority comes from, and a lot of it comes off the internet too. So, I
Mm.
mean, I've done a lot wrong, but I've done a lot right too. So,
Yeah, definitely. Well, we always fail forward and we learn, and that's one of the best ways. I think it's just about not being afraid or having the fear to start. And so you're well on your way. And it is pretty astounding that, with ultra cyclists, we all have to balance our lives, but it's unique in your case. You are young. There's different challenges at a young age. Of course, you are still going to school. You're working even at 17 years old. You're paying for all of your bicycles. And so I think just in general, what I've gathered from talking with you today is that you really are a high performing individual and that you have the mental capacity and willingness to do these kinds of things and everything that ultra cycling requires of us as individuals. And so I can only imagine as you mature and as you grow older and you gain more experience, do more events, again, I think there's just a lot of exciting things in store for you. And I'm sure all of your friends and family, they must be just incredibly impressed at the journey that you've made and all of the changes that you've made in just such a short amount of time. Tell me a bit about that.
Well, I mean, I've had a lot change. My family, they I think a lot of them don't really understand exactly what I'm doing. My friends definitely don't know what I'm understand what I'm doing. But I a lot of them are just like, okay, so you're gonna go out and ride 100 miles this weekend. I'm like, yeah. They're just like, why? They don't understand my focus and my motivation to do it, because all of them are going to go out and party all weekend and go hang out with friends, and I'm going to go out and just sit on my butt and ride my bike. So I, I think a lot of people don't really understand, but my body composition has changed a lot, and when I was in the process of changing my body composition, on a week to week basis, I was looking very different,
Mm,
getting sick a lot, and a lot of malnourishment and stuff like that. And I'd come to work some days and I'd just be drained,
mm,
and everybody'd be like, dude, you need to start eating. And, since then I've gotten out of that, but, I think a lot of people don't understand what I'm doing, and a lot of people don't really have the same appreciation that I have about it.
mm.
Because, they do their own things, but, yeah, that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I can relate, Adam. And I would say, you very much are a pioneer, a leader. You're built that way. You have the mindset for that. And sometimes it is lonely when you're out on the front trailblazing because people don't get you. But you should know because you've almost been raised in the ultra cycling family. You've seen the top and the best. You've seen the race across America. So for you, it should be very easy to stay motivated because you know exactly what you're doing and you know the people that are
Yeah,
involved. And of course, that's the beautiful thing about ultra cycling is the community around it. Everyone is so
definitely.
supportive and caring, and it really is one big family. And it's cool to have you also in the family, probably one of the younger, if not the youngest. And I know there are other exceptional young athletes as well, and we hope to have many of them on the show also. And it's nice because, of
Definitely.
course, there's a lot of opportunity for you to also be very fast. And there's, I think with the right mentors, as you've had already to get you to this point, and the right training, and as you figure things out, there could be the next wave of ultra cyclists, which would be really awesome. And I'm sure one
Yeah.
day we'll see you at the large events. And I wouldn't rule out a race across America. I know it may seem really far off for you one day, but on that subject, in your bucket list, so you did talk about the
Yeah.
500 miles in 24 hours. Would you say the race across America is on your bucket list?
Yeah, I would like to do it, not preferably as a solo. I mean, needless to say, the future is still out there. I'm not going to
Yeah.
predict the future, but I think that, maybe if I do it as a team first, obviously that's going to give me an even deeper aspect. But crewing has a lot to do with that too. I mean, just crewing for it, you can tell what they're going through and stuff. But I mean, you yourself are not going through. You're not going to get the deep experience until you do it. So I
Right.
mean, it's something as close as doing it like as a two-person team. Even you're doing half the race right there. If you can do
Mm.
half the race, surely with a little bit more training, a lot more balance and stuff like that, you can do it the whole thing by yourself. But I I don't know. I mean, maybe someday we'll see how things will go. We'll see about, maybe 500 miles in 24 hours first, obviously, but
Yeah.
I probably not until my 30s, if anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's nice that you do have that balanced approach and you are setting realistic goals and expectations. But I would warn you, if you stick around people like Marco Bell and Christoph Strasser, Only bad things can happen with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Adam, it is difficult for you. You're balancing your life. People may not understand you, even family, friends. What's motivating you then? What keeps you, going? You're biking quite a lot every week. I mean, even for regular cyclists, road racers, people that are doing it, week to week, have a lot of friends doing it. It's tough for them to stay motivated. What is really keeping you getting on your saddle every day in and day out?
I really don't know what motivates me, but if anything, it's I don't want to be overweight and out of shape ever
Mm,
again. I don't want to be in that ever again. So I know that if I keep going and I keep persistent, I will not lose what I've built up. What I've built up is, as a foundation, and I'm just slowly building the tower as high as I could possibly build it. And I don't want to go down a story in my tower. I just want to keep building as much as I can. And it's something that's just within me. It's just telling me, dude, you got to go out and train. Like today, I've been off my bike. I haven't been on my bike since Saturday, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to have to get on my bike and ride for a little while. But you know, it's just something inside me that tells me, dude, you need to do this, or
mm,
you can do this. There's nothing stopping you. You got to do it. So
yeah.
it's something inside. I don't know what motivates me.
Hmm. Well, I think you explained it quite well there, and I think you do have some inner ambitions. On the one hand, I think just watching and being inspired by the Race Across America and everything you've been a part of now, and I'm sure just all the success that you've been having is keeping you going forward, and that's very exciting. You did share this photo here on your indoor trainer. You did the 60 VRAAM event earlier this year.
Yeah.
Man, really looking good there. And that was your Lightspeed bicycle.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
looking great there, Adam. And I'm sure you must be proud, and your family must be proud of all the weight that you've taken off, and the level of your health now. I'm sure you feel it, and you must feel great. This is an awesome
Yeah.
photo. What event was this?
That was at Texas Time Trials just last
Cool.
month, actually.
Wow. Now tell me, do you feel like a badass sitting there amongst people who are probably double or triple your age?
Well, at the time, I was kind of cocky, and I thought, you know what, this is a bunch of old guys. I can just beat them all up in this race.
Yeah.
So but I didn't know what I was getting into in that race. It was really bumpy pavement. It was super hilly, and it was quite windy that day. And I stayed on my bike the whole race, the whole 6 hours. Well, I actually didn't finish the 6 hours. I did 5 hours 35 minutes. Um, but I felt cocky. I felt, you know what, I'm gonna go out here and I'm just gonna blow all these guys up. But it didn't really work out that way. But I don't know what it was. I couldn't get my body to go at full speed. My first lap was only 21.1 mile per hour average or something like that. So I mean, it
Mm,
really wasn't that fast. But I don't think I got passed by anybody the whole race. I think I just kept passing people. So I mean,
mm,
I I I don't know. I felt like I just blended in. I was one of them. So
cool. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, you definitely play the part well, Adam. I love it. Your whole setup, glasses, helmet, the bike. I mean, I'm sure many cyclists would be envious of a nice setup like that. You really have everything dialed in there. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I just got in a bike fit actually 2 days beforehand on that bike. So that kind of was not a
Ah,
great idea before the event. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, 2 days before the event, I got a bike fit. So
Well, I'm
helped a
glad
little
you
bit.
were able to capture such a nice photo. It's definitely one that you should frame up. I'm sure in 10 years' time, when you look back, you'll just get a
Yeah.
kick out of it. Now, of course, we have another photo here.
Yes,
What
that was
event
at
was this?
Sebring.
Oh,
That was
okay.
at Sebring. That was probably um I think 60 miles into it. So around
Nice.
that, I was still riding very fast, and I was just trying to catch people down, and
Hmm.
the wind was not in my favor, but I felt really good at that point, and I felt like I'm going to go out here and just give it my all today, and
Mm,
yeah, that was at Sebring, and
that's
little
cool.
I was up there near the front, not like in the back or anything like that, but I
Yeah.
mean that was yeah, that was
Well,
at
I'll tell
Sebring. It
you,
was
looking
great.
at this photo, Adam, that looks like the face, the demeanor, and the position of a champion right there. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I'd actually I didn't have sunglasses on because when we were on the racetrack,
Yeah.
because we do 3 laps on the racetrack and then go out and do the first 100, and then we keep doing 10-mile loops for the rest of the day. On
Hmm.
the racetrack that morning, I dropped my sunglasses, so I
Oh,
had no sunglasses the whole race.
wow.
I kept yelling to my crew. Well, my crew guy, he was crewing for me, and Mike
Hmm.
Phillips, and he said, I was like, dude, I need some sunglasses, anything, you know. And I was screaming, I was like, I need something. My eyes are burning out here.
Oh my goodness.
And but you know, it was. I felt, you know, my sunglasses were gone, and that was that. But it was a sad story about the sunglasses, but it was
Yeah.
great. The race was great.
Funny story, and it's interesting how little things like that always crop up and try to derail you. But glad you're able to finish that, and glad your eyes are okay, I guess.
Yeah,
And of course, this last weekend, here you are looking cool again. Your Gorilla Century ride with the spectacular
yeah,
performance, 21.2 miles per hour. Definitely something to be proud of. And so I'm
yeah.
sure you, yeah.
That was something else. I was actually I was not in bare skin on my legs either. Those were actually pantyhose.
Ah,
Yeah, so my dad brought that up to me before on my birthday. Actually, he was like, you know, it's going to be cold during this event. Have you thought about wearing pantyhose? And because they're perfect for temperature, varying temperature and stuff like that. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to go to the women's section at Walmart, you know. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh man. So I walk in there and I buy pantyhose and I go home and I try them. It's like, you know what? I guess I'll wear 'em. So I tried them out and
hmm,
I did the ride and you know I was still freezing cold, but you know not to nearly any extent. I didn't have to wear leg warmers or anything like that. So I mean it worked out pretty fine. But everybody thought I was wearing bare skin, but no, I
interesting.
wasn't.
Oh, that's pretty unique. First time I've heard of
Yeah.
somebody using that. Although I wouldn't I wouldn't think people don't. But what was the issue with the regular leg warmers?
Well, I kind of had the feeling that it was going to get warmer that day.
Hmm.
The temperature said that it was going to go up into the mid 40s, which at that point I would just go out there with no leg warmers at all. It would just be, you know, jersey arm warmers and shoes, and that would be about it. Maybe a wind vest. But I thought, you know what, it's going to get warmer, and it did not get warmer. So I was like, oh man, you know.
Yeah.
But the pantyhose are great with varying temperatures because
Hmm.
they they're not too hot and they keep you warm enough when it's cold. So they worked out for me. But you know, I wasn't, you know, freezing cold bare skin, but you know, I was kind of disappointed it didn't warm up during the day, but I was
Hmm.
prepared for it. And that's
Yeah.
what the pantyhose were for.
Yeah, no, glad you had some solution and a supportive father who is willing to make the sacrifice into the woman's aisles.
I
Now I
work at
will.
Walmart, so I mean, I'm kind of used to it.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Now I will say something that I've been accustomed to, of course, in riding, primarily double century races here in California. So you tend to start early in the morning, and depending on where you're riding, varying temperatures and climates. And so typically you always have to start with some kind of leg warmers and generally a few hours in, once it starts warming up, we just on the bike or even stopped at a light, but perhaps in your case there wasn't any stops. So just on the bike coasting behind people, just rolling down the leg warmers and actually just keeping them at your ankles. And that's actually quite common. So you might want to try that next time. It actually works
Yeah.
quite well, both with the arm warmers and leg warmers. And so it's been a really fun time chatting with you. And I just have a couple fun questions, sprint round to the finish line, just to end on a fun note. But do look forward to having you on the show again very soon. But until then, of
Perfect.
course, I will be following your journey. We're friends on Facebook, and I hope others will connect with you because I think there's a great story in the making, but also a great story that has already been told in your life just in the last 5 years since your introduction to RAM. So, Adam, fun way to end here. When will your next long training ride be, and how long do you expect it to be?
Oh, probably sometime in mid-November. I'm thinking maybe a 120-mile ride or something like that. And I'm hoping I can do that at night because Pace
Hmm.
Bend starts at midnight and ends at noon.
Oh,
So I need to get started right. I need to get used to riding in the middle of the night. Usually my night rides are in the late evening and into the early night, but nothing riding late night, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning or anything like that, and then ending at noon. So
hmm.
maybe 120 miles, something like that. I need to get used to riding a little bit longer like that. So
Yeah,
that'll
that's
be
cool.
a little needed. Yeah.
I must say, for your age, and even if you were older, I think you have a certain level of discipline that a lot of people don't, and you're really taking things seriously, and that's great. And that only means that, long road ahead of you of success. So well done. Now, how about, you have 6 bicycles, you're riding a lot every week.
Yes.
How would you rate yourself in terms of bicycle maintenance on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being great, changing out your tires, lubing your chains, the works, cleaning your bike.
I'm about a -2.
Negative. Wow. Okay, I think that's the first on the show. That's
No,
hilarious.
yeah, I can switch out, I can shift my bike, I can switch out wheels, I can switch out all that good stuff. Changing a tire, I'm barely qualified to do. Um, I can,
Uh,
install saddles, I can, do all this fancy stuff. When it comes to a derailleur braking and turning my bike into a single speed, forget it. I'm not going to be able to do that. Or even an overhaul on a bike. I can't overhaul a bike. I can't do a routine check on a bike. I can't do any of that.
yeah.
So I'm not that great. My dad does that for me. So,
Oh,
but I'm
cool.
learning. I'm learning. So
No, that's good. Yeah, I mean, it takes time, so we'll give you a break there. But yeah, -2. We'll get you to the zero to par, and then that's funny. Okay, what is your dream bicycle, Adam, or do you already own it?
oh yeah. I'm starting to think. Probably. Ooh, this is a tough one. Probably a Cervelo P5X, I think. I really like that bike.
Hmm.
It's a cool bike. It's funky looking and it's it just looks cool to be honest. And I would have that with like Shimano Dura-Ace Di2, and then a set of Envy deep carbon wheels and
Yeah.
an Envy disc. Yeah, I mean that's probably my dream bike right there. But like for a road bike, probably a Canyon Air Road. I really like that bike.
Ah, yes, yes. Very, very popular. Cool. Yeah, no, can't wait to see you on those sweet rides, but glad you already have some really nice bikes that you can enjoy and that you can make look good with all your speed, and they do you justice because you are a fast rider, so well done. All right, Adam, final question. Who would you nominate for a future episode? Somebody that has inspired you or a story that you would just love to know more about yourself?
A guy named Mike Phillips. He lives in Locust Grove, Virginia. He has helped me so much in my ultra cycling. He crewed for Andy Christensen in RAAM 18, and he crewed for Marco in RAAM last year. So, and he's doing Race Across the West this year. And he has goals to someday do Race Across America solo. Um, and he's helped me so much. He's just a really great person. He
Hmm.
always lives by the saying of "pay it forward,"
Hmm.
and I think that he very much deserves to be on this show because he has a lot. He has a great story to tell. He has been through a lot. He went from being very overweight,
Hmm.
you know, a kind of a like story like mine, and since then he's turned his diet around and he's gotten really fit. And he's 58 years old, and he's out
Wow.
riding hundreds of miles, and he's just an incredible athlete, and I really think that he should be on the show.
That's cool. Thanks for that nomination, Adam. Sounds like a great guy, and look forward to hearing all about his story as well. But thank you again for taking the time out of, I'm sure, what is a busy teenage schedule that you have. You're doing a lot more than the typical teenager. So I think your parents should be very proud. And glad to have you in the ultra cycling family. Glad to meet you. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us. And, I really do look forward to following your journey. And I think it'll be exciting to see what you're able to do as you continue to sign up for some of these ultra events that many of us are familiar with. And I hope to see you either in California or at other state at some event. And it'd be cool to meet you in person. But until then, I
That would
will
be
look forward
great.
to following you online and staying connected. But glad to be able to capture your story. I know it's just at the very beginning, but you've accomplished a lot already. And so we'll be cheering you on. Thanks again. Adam.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone watching at home, thanks for tuning in today for this awesome episode with a very young and promising up and coming athlete who has accomplished a lot already. Could give me a run for my money in one of the time trials with the average speed that he just rode his century in. And so let's cheer him on as another member in the ultra cycling family. I know there's a nice long road ahead of him. Hope you get to see him at one of the events coming up, and let's see if we can give him some competition, give him a run for his money, and we'll look forward to following his journey. Hope that he's also given you a lot of inspiration. Definitely an incredible story at such a young age. I think what I've gathered from today's episode is that there's no excuse. Nothing should hold us back. So until next episode, everyone, keep spinning ultra.